like a cat, it was a present from my brother. I read a lot of books.
We are live. Good morning, everybody. So today we were on
Good morning,
time, we
everybody.
thought, pretty much, until...
Well, we were on, you and I met early, 10 minutes early, so that we could be on time. And we were so proud of ourselves that we were on time. And then suddenly we both realized neither of us had coffee. And I don't know what happened with you getting your coffee, but on the way back with my coffee, I tripped and spilled all of my coffee all over the kitchen floor. So then it became a cleaning project, and I was so not going to be on time. But I have my coffee, and we're here. Today's coffee cup, by the way, my friend Randy Baker in Ohio had these made for us by an artist friend of his, and I'll have to find her card so I can tell you. But this is mine, and he had one made for you as well.
Is that for me?
It looks like
Oh, that's awesome,
That's for
dude.
you.
Wow. Wow.
That's Randy Baker in Ohio. Had
Thank
an
you,
artist
Randy
friend of his
Baker.
make those for us.
I'm gonna have to come get
Yeah,
it though. Still, I mean, you got to show it up. I'm using my guitar one again. You know, today's Friday. It's supposed to be Alley Day, but I didn't wear the Alley one. I didn't. Yeah, usually on Fridays I
Alley
use
Day.
Alley Cup. My Alley Cup. I know.
I know.
I was.
What is she watching? What if your daughter is watching?
No, there's no chance my daughter's
She doesn't
watching. I
care.
can tell you that right now. She's like, I got enough of my dad. I don't need to watch him on YouTube too. For the love of God.
Well, you know, my wife Allison went to the dentist yesterday, and it got me thinking about my worst dentist stories. And I had some bad ones, you know. When I was really young, I was a really poor musician. Coming back from New York, I had a root canal done without anesthetic, where they pulled the nerve endings out with me being totally aware. And let me tell you, pain on a level I didn't know existed. But that wasn't the worst. I nearly died in 2018 from a rare dental condition called Ludwig angina, where an abscessed tooth gets into your sinus cavity and then goes to your heart and kills you. I had to have emergency surgery on my throat. But that wasn't the most interesting dental story. The most interesting dental story was about 4 years ago, my friend Darius Rucker, who was a big rock star in the 90s and now is a big country music star, was touring. And he had heard through the grapevine that my marriage was falling apart. My second marriage was falling apart. My wife had left, and he invited me out on the road to write songs, but really just to hang out on his tour bus so everybody could sort of lay hands on me, make sure I was doing okay, wasn't drinking too much, wasn't being too sad.
Thanks, Mark.
I mostly played video games with his bodyguard, Buddy Wright, who everybody calls.
Nothing. Don't worry about it.
What's going
Somebody
on?
was just. My wife was saying hello. Hello, Kimmy. She's gone.
Hey, Kimmy. So I mostly played video games with his bodyguard, Buddy, who I call Buddy Love because he's such a nice guy, and I beat him pretty bad on Madden, so it's kind of embarrassing to. I hope he doesn't see this because it's, you know, anyway. But it was fun. It was really great. I mean, Darius, first of all, here's a guy who was a multi-platinum rock star and decides I'm going to pull the plug on my career and go country. And country, not traditionally the most accepting place for African-American people. I actually asked him the last time we played with him, I said, hey, man, you sure you want to make this move? A lot of country fans are going to not like you just because of the color of your skin. And he went, well, my mama liked country music. I grew up in South Carolina, and I love country music. I'm going to just do what I love. And he is multi-platinum artist doing what he loves. And you got to say hats off, man, because it couldn't have been easy all the time. And I respect him and I love him. And he's always, you know, we used to trade gigs before he was famous with Cowboy Mouth, and we've always stayed friends, and he's always been helpful to my career. And so he invited me out to write songs for a potential new record. And Jim McCormick, I said, he told me to bring 3 songs out. Jim's like, yeah, bring a dozen, you know, just bring a verse chorus, a dozen verse choruses, let him have a lot to choose from. I think I brought 33. And I think he chose 3, which we never got around to getting on a record. But anyway, it was nice of him to do it because I really sort of needed to sort of feel validated, you know. Life was falling apart, and I had no explanation as to why, and I needed to belong somewhere. And I'd known these guys since the Hootie days for 20 years, and his crew's family, and his assistant Ford is a guy I watched grow up from a teenager to a man. And so they were there for me. They let me know without saying that they were there for me, that they loved me, and they wanted to make sure I was okay. Mike Kelly, their tour manager, insisted I got an extra bed, or we got this place in Maine with cabins on the lake. Why don't you come on a night off, you know? So anyway, I went up for 4 days, and one of the gigs was in like Meningie, Minnesota, or something like that. Like one tiny, tall Minnesota town. It was freezing and it was snowing, and I went to sleep after the show, and we woke up, and there's catering in Minnesota for the breakfast. And I'm an early riser, so I would have breakfast with the boys on my run on the tour and the crew mostly. And I got a bagel. Now bagels, Mikey, are made a certain way.
Can't come over here.
There's a certain consistency to the water. There's a real chemical thing that goes into making good bagels properly. They can do it in New York brilliantly, and Jersey, of course. I've had some great ones in LA, not always, but they know how to make a bagel in LA. Florida probably has good bagels. I haven't tasted, but
Miami.
now, Meningie, Minnesota, I don't know that they had experienced a proper bagel yet. And perhaps these bagels had been frozen. At any rate, I chipped my tooth on a bagel, and it hurt. And it was the last day of tour. And so they, dropped me off at the airport, and I fly to St. Louis. And I tell my friend Joe Hogan, St. Louis Joe, you got to meet me and take me to a dentist, man. I'm in pain. I chipped my tooth on a bagel. I got gigs. I got to drive. I got to start driving for gigs all around the country. So Joe takes me to a dentist, and the guy's like, man, you really, that bagel chipped your tooth pretty good. It's cracked in half. It's going to take a little work. You should go to your dentist when you get home. I'll give you some antibiotics so you can avoid infection. I'll give you some Vicodin. Now, please don't take either on an empty stomach. I go, gotcha. I know the drill. So I don't have a gig that night, and Joe takes me out for a nice dinner, steak dinner. So I got the Vicodin and the antibiotic and some wine, but I'm eating the steak and the potato on the left side, so I'm doing okay. And the food and the wine kicks in with the Vicodin, and I'm feeling good. And I get some sleep after the flight and the pain and the thing. So the next day, I have to drive home to New Orleans for a gig, and Joe has made breakfast, and I go, man, I got like a 16-hour drive, and I got a gig tonight, and I got to leave now, So I hustle out of the house, and I leave the house, and I know, oh, fuck, man, I didn't take the Vicodin and the antibiotic. I better get something to eat. So I get a power drink, like a ultra caffeinated thing, and yes, yeah. And like a little bar of something, like granola bar, and I down that with Vicodin and freaking antibiotic, which are looking for food they can gobble up so they don't make you sick. So I leave St. Louis and I make it as far as Memphis, and there's a traffic jam, and it's summer, and I'm starting to feel a little overheated, and I'm like, this is more than just overheated summer traffic, man. And now I'm stuck on the top of the bridge over the river, in Memphis, and I'm just like, man, I don't know if I'm going to make it off this bridge because I might pass out. So first exit, I pull over, and I'm diaphoretic, I'm sweating, I'm dizzy, I'm nauseous. I get out of the car in some parking lot and just lose it. Now all that power drink and everything. Thinking, I should have had some food with that stuff, like that doctor told me.
But that wasn't food.
So then you're not thinking rationally now. Now you're in bad shape, and what you mostly need is rest. But no, I'm thinking, I should have had food like the doctor told me. And I go to McDonald's. I gave me some French fries and a Coke. And I gobble that as I'm driving, as I continue to drive, because I got to get home. I got things to prove back home. And I get as far as Grenada, Mississippi now, and it's getting to be nighttime. And I stop. I think I better get something to eat because I'm not feeling too well again. I stop in the parking lot of a Mexican food place, and those fries and that Coke just came right back up to visit from McDonald's. And there was a little blood mixed in this time, which got my attention, And I'm like, I'm not doing well. And I might not make the final 8-hour trip to New Orleans. So let me get a room at the Hampton Inn next to the Mexican restaurant. So I get a room at the Hampton Inn, and determined that food will solve this problem, Mikey, I get some microwavable food from the icebox of the Hampton Inn, soup of some kind or noodles of some kind and some crackers of some kind to give consistency to it. And I eat it, and I'm convinced myself that I'm doing great, man. Yeah, you are doing great. You're going to take a little nap, and you're going to be fine. Well, I did take a nap, Mikey. I fell fast asleep from that nice little meal. And about 45 minutes later, I was running to the bathroom to call out on the white telephone. Oh God!
Like an old
And
car. Ooga.
I, it was best for all concerned that I sleep until morning. And when I got home, my ex didn't notice that I wasn't there. In fact, I think she was pretty happy that I hadn't made it home. She was probably praying for an accident or something at that point.
Well, I'm glad that Philip was like, dude, I'm going to the dentist next week. Please stop it. So I'm glad that the story didn't actually go too much about the dentist. It just it happened to be sort of a.
I got it fixed eventually, but then, like an idiot, a dentist fixed it, and then maybe 4 years later, I was eating hard candy, which at 59, great,
right.
Keep eating hard candy, and I'm chewing on the tooth that's cracked. That he said, be careful with this because if you crack it this time, this is the last tooth on that side because I lost a couple, and you'll have to get implants if you lose that tooth. So I went to him and. $20,000 later.
Oh my God, man! And I just want to let Randy know. Randy told me to enjoy the mug and not to let you bogart it. So.
No. I decided that you would take the larger mug because you're a much larger man.
I like a lot more coffee.
And I have the square mug because I am the square peg trying to fit into the round hole my whole life.
I'm all about it. Plus, it almost looks like an Indiana Jones type thing. I kind of really dig that, from what I could tell.
I know you well, and I knew that would be. So, Brandy, just back off, man.
I know, Mike. I got him covered.
I got Mikey covered.
I was just thinking about, man, those driving and just, getting to the hotel late. I went to Tampa recently when during the pandemic I had a show in Tampa, and I got there and there was literally there was one taxi, and I got off at the airport. I go outside and I didn't know where I was. I was thinking I was going to call an Uber or something like that, and there's like one taxi cab out there, and he just wasn't in the taxi zone. And finally he gets out of his car. He goes, "Hey man, you need a ride?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you're running?" And he's like, "Yeah," because I'm busy trying to figure out Uber and nobody's answering. They're like saying, "Yeah, this guy's an hour and a half away, whatever." Right. Anyway, getting to Tampa, driving downtown. It was August, I think. And at that point, they had shut Tampa down. And it was just the weirdest, being in a city, in a hotel, nothing going on. It was really strange. Yeah. And so I had to eat the food you're talking about, like some crazy burrito, whatever, And it didn't end well. It didn't.
It's not pleasant. It's not something that's cool to do to your body or your soul.
And I've been known to eat some McDonald's here and there, so it's not like I'm not trained for it.
Oh, look, I'm no gourmet. I've eaten things that would curl the hairs on the back of your neck, I'm sure. But on the road, sometimes things happen and you get hungry.
I've got a funny Alita Adams story. We went and did those islands. Which ones are the ones? All right, so you got the Bahamas, and then they have those ones that are almost probably as far out as you can get before you start getting closer to England. St. Vincent, there's a couple of these islands out there. Anyway, they were filming the Pirates of the Caribbean at the time, and but we had a gig too the same weekend. But all the hotels and everything, there was no getting in anywhere because Disney owned the whole freaking island. So we wound up having to stay at these people's house, which was weird. They drive you into this little shanty town, and you're in somebody's living room on furniture that's older than me, and it's just weird, right? Alita eventually got us into a place like way outside of town, and anyway, we're going to eat, and we were served. They made the food for us, and then we were served these little round meat patties about yay big, or I'm trying to see if I can get it in the camera frame, about yay big. They had like a little bone right through the middle, and they said it was fish. Didn't taste like fish, but we kept hearing meowing, like all around. Like there must have been 1,000 cats.
Like your camera is to your left.
You're not seeing me on that camera. You're seeing. Oh, right. So for you, it's this one, but my camera for them is a different camera. But yeah. So
gotcha.
Anyway.
Okay. I blew the third wall. We had a thing going where people thought that we were really connecting.
Well, I am connecting because I can see you, but you just can't see me, right?
You're not facing me. I've stopped listening to your story. I'm like, why isn't not is he working
What's
on
he
a
doing?
side
Why are you
project?
talking to
What's
them?
going on?
So
Who are they?
right.
They're supposed to be me.
So anyway, there's all this cat meowing going on, and it felt like every time I would start to cut into this piece of meat, there would be a meow, and so we're all just looking at each other like it can't be. I mean, come on, right? I mean, it's not fish, obviously, but what small animal would? Because you could see like where they cut. I don't know, but anyway, I think it's possible I ate cat.
Yeah,
I think it's yeah.
let's
I
go
think it's
away from
possible.
that now.
And even that didn't make me sick. So, my goodness, you know there
Yeah, we don't want to
bugs on those
talk
islands
about
that are
that
bigger than
because I had my
cats.
morning Metamucil crackers, and I don't want to unsettle my stomach.
Let's see. Mark Membrilia says he was picking his son up from the auto shop, grabbing breakfast on the way home. McDonald's. McDonald's breakfast isn't that bad.
Uh-oh.
You know, McDonald's actually makes eggs, right? I mean, they have real eggs.
Well, have something that resembles
If you
eggs.
get like the McMuffin, that's got to be a real egg, right? Where they.
I don't know that I've ever seen anybody crack an egg in a McDonald's. It's sliced out of a thing, right? Or they
just slides onto
yeah.
Anyway, I am a big fan of their breakfast, Mark.
I think they just have SpongeBob dolls in the back that they have little circle cut that they put into and put that out.
It was a goat in the islands. It's always goat. Thank you, Philip. That does make me feel better. And now Mark's not sure if they want the McDonald's now that they just paid for it, thanks to our stories. So sorry about that, Mark. Anyway, it probably isn't cat, Mark. Just in case you're wondering. Did you hear that part where I said Mark doesn't want the McDonald's he just bought because of our stories?
No, he'll eat it.
He's just bluffing.
You know, the Buddha eats what the Buddha's given. If you're hungry, you eat it. Deal with
Can I tell him about Monday? Can I tell him about Monday?
Yeah. What happened?
Yes, can I tell him? I don't think anybody knows except you and me.
Yeah,
we're going to have John Thomas Griffith on, guys. He's going to come and...
Our very first guest. I mean, Luis is going to be our superhero specialist, and Edward is going to be our philosopher on life on Wednesdays. But on Mondays, we wanted to have just a musical friend stop in for a chat of life on the road, life in music, any questions people might have for them. So it seemed logical to begin with one of my oldest musical compadres, John Thomas Griffith, who I played for 15 years in Cowboy Mouth with, and we were the Lonesome Travelers before Cowboy Mouth, and still are the Lonesome Travelers when we get a chance to play country music and our songs together. So Griff is going to be joining us. JTG, JT Muggle. He's a man of many names and many stories.
And not only that, he's out in California, so for him, it's like he has to get up really early, guys. You know, he's getting up.
Well, you know, Griff, since I've known him, has been an early riser. I asked him if it was going to be a problem, and he just laughed. He said he's up playing tennis early every day, and he's been doing that since I met him 30 years ago.
Good for him, man. Holy smoke. You know. Was it table tennis, or is it like real tennis?
He plays real tennis.
Wow.
Yeah, man. So, so he'll be up, and it'll be great fun to talk to him and to just laugh about some old times.
Yep, the son of an engineer will be here on Monday.
Indeed.
We're very excited about that. And we do have today's Chicago Lou. We're going to do the superhero hour. I don't know who. I had gotten a shot yesterday. Paul was trying to call me yesterday, and I got a shot from the doctor that literally I woke up at 3 a.m. I got home. I somehow made it to the bed, fell into the bed, and then at 3-something in the morning I woke up and tried to watch Wanda, and I fell asleep during Wanda until this morning. So I never got a chance to finish yesterday's Wanda Vision. For people who are watching, you know, WandaVision, if there's any of you guys.
You know, I haven't tuned into WandaVision yet, I have to say. And I like superhero stuff normally. This one was a little
it's very
high concept for me. Yes. Now, he's assured me that it's good stuff. It's worth watching, and he's got a lot of fine points about. But you know, I grew up really poor, and so the comic book heroes were made for my generation and my class.
Same here, right?
You know, the poor kid who could fight his way out to justice, you know. And it was a great little fantasy that justice would triumph over rich, wealthy people. And someday that fantasy will
And
come
it
to
was cool to
life.
have stories like that. I mean, back then, think about the stories. When we were kids, television was just, you know, what it was, right? I mean, it had sitcoms where you had, what, 3 channels basically, and then the Channel 12 and Channel 26 for us here in New Orleans, which was the independent channel, I guess.
We're 10 years apart, Mikey.
Wow.
TV was so different for
Right.
me than it was for you. We had black and white TV. We were one of the first families on the block to have black and white TV, and it was all poor families. So people would watch our TV. And then one day, somebody brought home, I think it was my dad, but I don't have any memories of him because he died when I was 5. So I really don't know who did it. But somebody brought home a little piece of plastic that was going to colorize the TV. And they put the plastic on the screen, and the top was blue, and the middle part was kind of beigeish like flesh, and the bottom part was green. So if somebody was standing in a field, it sort of looked like it was in color.
Sort of.
Other than that, it was like an early acid trip before you had ever taken anything. You know, it's just all these weird colors on cars and houses. And you're like, this isn't right.
I don't think this is real life. Maybe I'll need to play with the knobs on the front. Remember, I remember being afraid to touch those because you'd screw something up and your TV would never look the same again. It'd be like, I screwed something up.
In fact, there's a scene in the movie Diner, which is, you know, the guys were in the 50s and color TV had first come out. And one of the guys working in an appliance store. And this old kind of grouchy fella's come up and he goes, have you seen our color televisions? And the old guy goes, I don't like color. I don't like color for nothing. I saw Bonanza last week on the color television. I hardly recognize Little Joe.
Nice. Oh, remember the vert hold thing? You test and all of a sudden it started flipping, like the channel would start doing the thing and you're like, whoa, what is it doing? You had to press with that.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that kind of
was
stuff. Yeah, that was fun times. Now the screen might freeze on you, but we're so used to instant stuff. You know, you used to actually have to go find the phone book, look through it, find the number of the place you wanted to eat, physically push the rotary on the phone, and wait for them to answer. You know, now it's just like pick up your phone and you go pizza. And you got choices.
It's about to get even weirder. I read an article about you know, where things are headed. Internet, they call it the metaverse instead of the internet at some point. The metaverse.
Oh, I'm so scared of the metaverse.
Right,
I don't even like the name of that.
It'll be a you know, as we're starting to move into this virtual thing or whatever like that. But they were even talking about this guy Kurzweil or whatever. But they're dealing with brainwaves right now. This is gonna scare the shit out of you, but they're dealing with brainwaves right now and trying to figure out ways that they can make you see things without having to deal with your eyes at all. So they inject this code into your brain that they're experimenting with this stuff now. That'll make you see.
We used to call that lysergic acid. It had the same effect. You would see things that your eyes
want to
weren't
be able to
seeing.
control it though, so that you know they can advertise.
I mean, we got virtual, and now we're going to have metaverse. What about the universe?
No, we don't have time for the universe.
Isn't it fantastical enough? Like, isn't there just enough fantastic things in the universe, in the actual reality surrounding you, that you wouldn't need virtual as much as we already need it, and that you certainly don't need to go further down Alice's rabbit hole into a meta universe that exists only in my mind. I mean, no, that's pretty much where I've lived my whole life, so maybe that's why it's not appealing to me. I already exist in the meta universe of my mind.
Oh man, so hopefully I stop this. Oh, you know, I think there was a Chickie show last night, although I didn't tune into it, my own show, because I slept through it. For any of you guys who went and saw the Chickie show, thank you guys. Diner, can't think of the third of the Baltimore trilogy. Avalon, Diner, was there a third one in that Baltimore trilogy?
Oh yeah. It was Diner, Tin Men, and Avalon. They're fantastic movies. Barry Levinson, the director. Diner took the guys when they were done with college and sort of finding themselves as adults and finding out that they couldn't just be the guys in the diner forever. Just an iconically perfect movie. Tin Men was about aluminum siding salesmen, starring Richard Dreyfuss and Danny DeVito, who get into a feud in the thing. And he could dance a merengue that would knock your socks off. And And then Avalon was the sort of the family story of the man later in life with family and trying to hold together the traditions uh, of the old world and the becoming one, which is pretty much a
No
timeless
kidding.
story.
I knew about John. So what did Johnny Favreau have to do with Diner? Did he just write it, or I know he was in it too?
Johnny
Favs, wasn't he in Diner? Him and wasn't it Vince Vaughn
No,
and
you're thinking of a different movie. No, you're thinking. No,
I
you're
thought that
thinking
was
of
Diner.
Swingers.
So who's in Diner?
You,
Yeah.
you young people. Diner was the '80s. It was Paul Reiser, Mickey Rourke, um,
Really? In
Kevin
Diner?
Bacon,
Interesting.
Guttenberg. Yeah, yeah, really great movie. Daniel Stern.
Daniel Stern was in it. Wow.
Great stuff. You know, yeah.
Interesting.
Great stuff. I think it was all, some of their first films. They were very young. And it was really, Barry Levinson showed his brilliance early and continued so throughout his career.
What's some other movies that Levinson did? Because I've definitely heard his name.
That trilogy, I mean, there was Rain Man. Right. His IMDb page is long and it's quality. He's
Barry Levinson.
He's Barry Levinson.
Of course. Is he still around?
Oh yeah.
Interesting. And I was thinking too, maybe at some point we can maybe dig into some of these. Now you make me want to go watch Diner. So at some point now I have to go watch Diner because it's not the one I thought it was.
You should. It's a classic. I actually was talking to my friend Tom Levy. He's a psychiatrist up in Nashville. He's written a couple of my songs with me, the Driving to Nashville song and Talking Spanish. And we were talking about Diner and how much it meant to us when we were young. And about a half hour later, he called me and said, I'm watching Diner.
So, maybe it's like instead of book club, we'll have movie club. Get together, we'll talk about some movies.
Well, I mean, I love music and I love talking about music, but I love movies. I have my whole life. There was a period where I worked on movies and I learned enough to know how hard it is. I still love the magic about it, the things I don't know. I love being on set for Your Honor and having just the one line to say, but I was there for 2 weeks, so I got to watch these really great actors, and some were stage actors and some were film actors. They all prepared so very differently for their moment, for their role, for their scene. Fascinating. It was like an acting lesson in the 3-week period. It was the same thing when I was doing 9 Lives, because there were so many different singers coming in. John Boutte, who's one of the greatest singers alive, came in. Kevin Griffin, who's a fantastic rock singer, and came in and did this theatrical thing. And he was singing the part of Billy Grace. And Kevin's such a gracious fellow. I offered him money, and he knew it was a not-for-profit record label, and he just said no. He did it because he's that kind of person. He's a beautiful guy. And so he was playing the part of Billy Grace. And there were 2 songs he was going to sing, one young Billy and one old Billy. So he sang the old Billy, and at the time, he was about 39, 40, whatever it was after the flood. And he sounded perfect. And he went to do the young Billy, and his voice had gotten deeper as he'd gotten older. And I said, listen, man, on this one, I'm looking for that voice that sang on the first Better Than Ezra record. I'm looking for the guy who made all the girls cry. And he went, gotcha. And he went in and he just took it up a timbre. He took all the bass out of his voice, and he sang it in this higher, younger sound. And he did it in one take, wow. And it was just lovely. And he had such great control. And that was the amazing thing, watching Michael Cerveris, for instance, a Broadway, 2-time Tony Award winner, Broadway trained actor. The control he exhibits when he sings, the subtlety he can inject into a lyric, the nuance he can suggest in a pause. Same for Brian Batt, also Broadway trained and locally grown here in New Orleans. What a beautiful and gentle and controlled singing voice, and of course Debbie Davis, who's one of my favorite singers to work with, and it's not just her voice, her personality, both whether you're working with her in a nightclub or on a stage. She's got a presence and a wise ass instinct that just is hilariously funny. But to have the privilege for a year and a half to watch how many different singers perform, it was a lesson. If you're paying attention, it's a lesson.
No kidding. So Allison Dewar just said Kevin Griffin has done some great live streams during this whole thing because he's a nut, not unlike you people. So I didn't know Kevin was doing little live streams, but apparently he's doing some too.
I didn't know he was doing the live streams. I'm not surprised. You know, he loves singing, and he's got a real connection to his fans, and he's got that beautiful voice that really just needs an acoustic guitar behind it.
I was listening to some of the old records of yours. Like I listened to a little bit of the first one, Jet Black and Jealous, which we've talked about. But I listened to Loose Parts again. You know, I got a special place in my heart for the Loose Parts record. It's the one we did with Paul. I mean, with Peter. And anyway, you sounded young. I was listening to it myself, thinking, my goodness, if Paul tried to sing this stuff today, he'd probably be like, my goodness, who is that kid? Because you sound like a kid on.
I listened to it myself recently because I'm getting Jet Black and Jealous printed onto vinyl. Because I really love vinyl. And I just saw it's my first record. I wanted to have it on vinyl, and I thought there might be a couple of hundred other people out there. I got a couple of hundred printed, not much because I don't expect many people to be interested. But I listened to it before I sent it to the factory, and I just thought, I smiled literally, and I turned to Allison and said,
right.
Who is that young man? He seems sad.
Or angry or something, right? He's an angry little feller.
I wish I could tell him to calm down and take a breath.
But Loose Parts is the same thing. I'm listening to it going, my goodness, Paul would not even, he'd probably be like, I don't believe I'm that, I'm singing that high. Because, these days you're just like.
You know what, though? I still
right?
can. That's just, the funny thing. I was doing a record with Mark Bingham as I was developing some vocal problems later in my career. And somebody came in to see the studio that was looking to book a session. So Mark said, let me show you around. He said, Paul, you mind? I said, no, go ahead. I'll take a break. And he turned to the person and said, I love working with this guy because he's got that McCartney thing. He can go for that extra range. And I just said, thanks, dude. And he walked out and I went, he must be thinking about somebody else. And then, I waited a couple days to ask him. And he goes, no, you get in your head sometimes as a singer. But when you're not thinking, you just go way up there like McCartney. When it's time to do harmonies and somebody can't hit the high one, you just go out there and do it without thinking because it needs to get done. And that was when I started to deal with some of the problems I had with my voice and my soul. It was a long journey. It wasn't until everything fell apart and the body broke down and everything went away that I had to start from scratch and remember to come from the heart, to keep it simple and think of church, as Bo Diddley once said.
People who tuned in for the Wright Brothers live stream, when I was mixing that, you kept blowing my mind because all of a sudden these high harmonies, and it was you. And I'm like going, all right, there goes Paul singing some crazy high harmony that's way out of his normal range. Just not even thinking twice about it. I'm just going to go and sing this huge.
Well, I have to say that my lessons with Debbie's mom, with Barbara Smith Davis, really, as I was on the comeback trail from the surgeries and from, just all the trauma and the vocal dystonia, the lessons with her really restored not just my confidence, but my belief in my range. She would take me through things and get me to lose myself in a song. And then at the end, she'd be sitting there with her hands in her lap with that sweet smile looking at me going, well, you just sang a high G, so you told me you couldn't do that. And it looked pretty easy just now. And it was great, because then it's like, oh, I can. And so that moment of trying to do it, your brain goes, you can't. And then you can't. Right? So it's not just relearning the muscles. It's training the muscles not to panic. It's training the heart to open so that the throat can open and really the honesty can flow. Because you don't want the fear creeping into the singing. You want the message in the singing. You want the song.
And I did notice you get one of the other things that sort of happens to guys who sort of lose themselves inside of that thing is you forget the chords because you're losing yourself inside of there. And
I've always done that.
I've never noticed you.
I've always done that. If I'm playing, ever since I was a kid, if I start to really get into a song, like my eyes closed, my hands are doing things. Sometimes it's the right thing. Sometimes it's not. When I'm playing by myself, it doesn't really matter because I'm playing by myself and nobody gets mad. When I'm playing with other people, they tend to get irritated when I change the chords of the song in the middle of the song. They prefer that I not do that.
I think most of us would prefer to keep those surprises to a minimum.
If I'm playing with Alex McMurray,
right,
he doesn't care. he knows that I'm a weirdo and that sometimes I'm not going to play the song like I played it last time. And he's just going to go whatever, and he's going to follow me and play something
Right.
gorgeous and perfect. But most people would prefer that you
Yeah.
play the song the way it's written. You know, they're
Strange,
weird
yeah.
like
Yeah,
that.
being out in front of an audience with no net, yeah, they'd kind of like to make sure that the guy.
Now it does swing two ways. In fairness, Mikey, there's the story about when we did Hurricane Party with Tim Summer producing, and as Tim later said, "I love you. You can play in your sleep." We did like a 12-hour day at your studio in Miro, and we were doing the last song. And Tim just wanted to get it finished, and it was me playing arpeggios on "Think and
Right.
Drink and Think" with my fingers dun, 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 on the fade out. And it's like, I don't know, 2 o'clock in the morning. We've been at it all day. I'm exhausted. And we're doing the arpeggios. And Tim told me this story later. He said, as I was playing the fade out, my head just started to go down. And then it just dropped in my chest. And I was
Yes, I
asleep and I
heard
was
of
still
that.
playing. And he said, you looked up at him and you went, should I wake him? And he went, let's see how long he plays. And he said that I played and the song stopped playing and I still kept playing the arpeggios. And y'all just laughed and he went, yeah, wake him. And you woke, you can go home now, buddy.
Yes, that was funny. I do remember that actually. Yes, you were just in time, the whole nine. Just
In time, playing
mhm.
the right two chords or three chords, whatever it was. But yeah,
That was
sound
fun.
asleep.
And Tim was always fun in the studio. He's he's nuts.
I
Me too.
love working with him in the studio because it's an
Yes,
anything goes thing.
he's
You
always.
know, I love a lot from Tim, but I love him. I miss him. He's up in New York. I would have to try and convince him to try and tune in sometime so he could hear that we love
Yeah.
him and miss him. But yeah, he's one of the most brilliant minds I ever encountered with an encyclopedic knowledge of the history
And
of
he
popular music
and he was
and a
Rick
truly
Rubin's
passionate.
roommate in
You know,
college. Yeah, I mean, they kind of. Yeah, oh, he loves
I
to
didn't
tell
know
that
that.
story. But yeah, him and Rick Rubin.
You read his articles that he writes for the
I've seen a couple
Brooklyn
of them. I don't
Observer.
always see them when they pop up. So,
I'm going to have
please.
to start sending you them because, first of all, they're brilliant. It's a brilliant read every time. Secondly, Dave Grohl is his arch nemesis. Anytime Grohl does something, he writes the most beautifully scathing article about how we need less Dave Grohl in the world.
That's funny. And the funny part about Tim is who knows if he even really believes it. He just enjoys the controversy and, just.
He really does believe it. He wrote a beautiful article about Bob Dylan. He's like how people complain about Dylan's performances being so different. They're a different thing every night. People come to see the songs as they were on the record. And Tim was like, what they don't understand about Bob Dylan is that as he's always been, he's on the cutting edge of something different. He's not there to perform for you like a trained monkey, like to give you what you pay to see. He's there to be the artist he always was. And whatever he sees and hears the song in that night,
Right.
that's what you're going to get.
Right.
You're going to get art. You're going to get art because you're going to see an artist.
Right.
And if you'd rather not see an artist, then there's REO Speedwagon still probably doing
Just head out
shows
to the
in the Midwest.
casinos.
I don't
I'm
know.
sure you can see somebody.
Oh God, I'm gonna have friends in the Midwest calling me, going, "Oh, what do you want to do with REO Speedwagon, man?
Yeah, you have to be careful these days.
Oh no, I remember being in the Midwest and mentioning something about REO Speedwagon, and people were like, "What are you talking about, man? REO Speedwagon rocks." I'm like, "So where I was, man."
I've been up there. Was it Nebraska? Is that where Matthew Sweet is from? But there's like a shrine to Matthew Sweet in one of these little towns that we went to. I think obviously the town he's from, but I think it's a little town in Nebraska. Yeah,
That's interesting. I mean, he's
last I
alive,
heard,
right?
yeah, I think he's still alive. He had his he's a group. Yeah,
Okay,
he's
well,
a great
good for
artist,
him.
but I think he owns the city now because it's the only thing to come out of Nebraska.
Yeah, I don't want a shrine. Like Dolly Parton just got offered the governor of Tennessee wanted to put a statue of her outside the state capitol. And first of all, she's too savvy a businesswoman to align herself with politics because it's bad business. Secondly, she had the most beautiful answer in the world. There's a lot of people suffering in this country, and I don't think it's the right time to put me up on a pedestal. That money could be spent towards helping the pandemic.
Brilliant. Because I was wondering, didn't she wind up in the head? Was that what she was in the headlines for recently? Because I know that there was.
She put up $1 billion to Vanderbilt to help with vaccine research. That's putting money where your heart is there, baby. I mean, that's Dolly. That's always
Yeah, we
been
went
a
to
real
Pigeon
deal.
Forge a few times when I was living in Tennessee, which is her little town, right? I enjoyed it. Yeah,
Really?
Yeah, I mean,
Funny. Oh,
is it
is it
9:40? It is
9:40?
9:45, Mr. Gooseman.
All right. Well, it's time for our phone call with Luis.
Chicago Lou.
Let me see if I
Yes,
can make this happen.
By the way, we didn't get a chance to test this yesterday because I was in that aforementioned nap, the doctor nap. So we're going to give this a shot. We're going to see how it works, and I might have to make some quick adjustments. So we'll see, people, how this works.
How do I add Lou?
How
do I do this?
You have to call him, maybe? I don't know. Oh, he's calling you.
Oh,
right. He called you.
Here it is. I got him.
So that put Paul on hold while he's doing whatever he's doing over there. And so I guess the show's mine now. Paul, that's unfortunately for Paul, that is not the most. Why is he still on hold? Oh, I guess because he went over and he's talking to Lou. Maybe he can make his way back over to us before too long. We'll see. I take full responsibility. Hey, there's
this call, Mike.
Paul's back. Paul's back.
I'm back because I'm trying to figure out how to add Luis to this phone call.
Why don't you try to call him?
I have him on the other line.
Oh, you have him on the other line. I got an idea. Let me see something here. He's got him on the other line, huh? Let me see if I press that button. Or that button. And you're back.
I think we can.
You know what's funny is I think I made a group with you two. Is how I made it so I could talk to you and Eddie.
Turn off incoming call. I turned off my incoming call. That was the problem.
Okay. So you're going to try to see if you can
now
add
you're
again?
there. And now I can. All right, I can get Luis to call me.
Yes, get Luis to call you. I think that might work better. Please.
Call me now.
Lou. All right,
let's see if this works.
If not, I think I know why it might not work this time. Aren't you guys having fun now?
I know. It's our technical thing, man. It's fucking us up every time.
It's okay. I don't think they mind too much. Just watching us fumble around like a bunch of monkeys.
I just now figured out how
to
call Luis.
Look at us.
Except for he's unavailable. I'll call the wrong Luis, son of a gun.
We're going to wind up on the phone with, that's going to be hilarious. Coffee, guys.
I don't know how to do it. What? I don't know what to tell you, Mikey. I failed at my end of the deal.
Nah, I don't think it's your fault. We really didn't want to test this yesterday. Oh, wait. I see
Here
Live Blue Expedition and... Oh, there's Paul and Live Blue Expedition. So let's see if I do... Oh, is he calling us? I don't see his... Not on this call. Oh, it says he's not on that call. How about this one? For others to join. 2 of 3 in the call. So how do we add you?
I have him on a different channel.
Yeah, I'm seeing if I can figure out a way to add him right now. Because what I'm wondering is if I have to make a group with both you guys, which is what I did with Eddie. Let's see here. Maybe I can do that now. Create a group. Let's see. Paul and Live Expedition. So it's got both of you guys. Let's see. Sorry, guys. Thanks for... Oh, group conversation. Let me see if I can answer that one. Sorry, guys. He's coming back. He'll be back in 1 second. Let me see. Cancel. All right. Try one more time, Paul. If you can't hear me, though, can you? Let's see. Hey, guys, you came to my phone. Try me one more time with that, Paul, so that my computer will see you. It doesn't see you right now. It came on my phone. So call me one more time. All right. But I think he figured it out, guys. And let me do this. Paul Sanchez. It's not coming to my, go away. It's not coming to this. So what if I do that? There we go. Waiting for others to join the call. Ring this group. Let me try to call him. We're going to try to call him. Let's see what happens. Hey, there's Luis. All right, I see Luis. Now if I can just see Paul too. No, it's still calling Paul. Let me see here. And there's Paul. All right, let me try to switch over. Okay, so the only thing I need to do now is, let me take a look at this. Let me add Luis here real quick to our little...
While you're doing the technical
edit name.
adjustments, I'm going to tell a quick story if I can. I'm a big superhero fan, as is Luis. And when the Chicago Cubs won the World Series, I was arriving in Chicago for a gig. And Doctor Strange was coming out, and I was real excited. It sounded like one of the better special effects ones, I wanted to see it. So I hit town, and I called my friend Will Byington. There's no way, man, I'm at Grand Park for the Chicago Cubs. Why don't you come down and meet me? I called Nunu. He's like, doesn't even answer his phone. The Chicago Cubs fans are out of their minds. And I asked Luis, I call him on the phone, he's at work, and he's like, yeah, you don't want to go near that, man. You're not going to find parking. You're not even going to find your friends. It's going to be just a madhouse. And I said, well, I really just want to go see Doctor Strange. I've been driving all day, but in the theater. I got a plan. He goes, well, I'm working. Call me back. He goes, I got a plan. Come pick me up in about a half hour. He goes to his boss. Pick me up in about a half hour. And he's like, I got a serious job. He goes to his boss. He's a data process. And he's like, I got a serious job. He's a data process. He goes to his boss. He's like, I hate to ask, but I got... You know me, I'm a White Sox fan. I don't care about the Cubs. You know me, I'm a White Sox fan. I got 3 fans that are Cubs fans. And they went to that celebration in Grand Park, and they're just drunk out of their mind. I'm just really worried about them. I just want to go give them a designated driver by home. I just want to go give them a designated driver. Go, don't even explain. Go, I know, the city's crazy. Go, don't even explain. And Luis walked out, and I was waiting in the Heart Renovations van. And Luis walked out, and I was waiting in the Heart Renovations van. Awesome, we had easy chairs. And then he's like, awesome, we had easy chairs. Okay, I'm going to send you back to the hotel. You want directions? Okay, I'm going to send you back to the hotel. Man, I thought Syria all over the country. I'm fine. Man, Chicago can be tricky, I'm like, he goes, I got it, Luis. Tricky, I'm like, I got it, Luis. Go my way. Drop him off. And as soon as you get to the underpass, what's it called, Luis? As soon as you get to the underpass, what's it called? Lower Whacker. You're under all the steel and stuff.
Yeah.
And so there is no more radar. The steering goes nuts. No more radar. My directions go nuts. And lower directions go nuts. Especially when it starts to get chilly, is where a lot of homeless people go to congregate on trash cans and get warm and hang out and get warm and hang out. Colony down there because several of the corners are dead ends. Because several, they're loading docks by day or whatever it is. They're loading docks by day or whatever it is. Siri keeps taking me the wrong place. I can't get out of this. Siri keeps taking me the wrong place. I can't get out of this. Scene from Blade Runner, like on the scene from Blade Runner, but I can't get out of it. And every time I slow down to make a turn, get out of it. And every time I slow down to make a turn, all the homeless guys are warming their hands. They're like, "Hey, hot renovations man, you need some directions. Come on over here, hot renovations man, we got you." I'm like, no, fellas, I'm fine, I got it. And I must have passed them like 6 times before I finally got out of there, I probably should have just pulled over and given them a beer or a sandwich, and they would have been fine. Here, just go this way, you idiot. But yeah, Chicago's not easy. Anyway, we got Chicago. Let me ask our fans real quick. Answers on whatever. Has the looping stopped, guys? I think it has, right? The looping should be fine now. Yes. Well, they haven't said anything yet. It'll take them a second to catch up. But all right, let's. Hey, good to see you, Luis. Sorry we didn't get a chance to...
Hey, nice to see you. I didn't want to interrupt your conversations. It was going so nice. I was just like listening and working, and I was like, I gotta interrupt them at one point. So, but good morning.
Nice.
Here's my other cup of
joining
coffee
us with the coffee. So. This is a beautiful thing. So you've been watching Wanda, huh?
I had to.
I
have.
I don't know, man.
That is amazing.
I finally I watched some of yesterday's. It's just taking so long. It's killing me.
Well, you just want the answer now, right? You just want the answer now. You become one of the binge people who just like, give it to me now. I want to watch all 12 episodes in one night.
And I guess we have to be careful of spoilers for that one, since that one's just still ongoing, and even Paul hasn't actually watched it yet. So,
well, Paul's not going to get to it for about another year.
Is it going to take you a year,
that's
Paul?
What happens. No, I'll talk Paul about a Marvel movie, and then he'll get to it. It's like. I answer all the questions like 6 months later. And I was like, Paul, like 3 other movies have come out since this movie. Let me try to catch you up,
Oh yeah, I got it. Like I'll be watching something late at night, and I'll be texting Luis like, I can't believe this is blah blah, and he's like, wait till you see the next one, you know.
So, yes,
this is late revelations. It's no longer news, right?
But we got a lot of cool stuff coming up, Luis, right? I mean, there's the Zack Snyder, right? The Zack Snyder cut. I kind of am actually after seeing the trailer. No, not really.
That's the thing. I'm not really. You know, I mean, it's 4 hours, right? It's a 4-hour movie. That's like half a workday when I put it in my own head, right? So, and it's like, how come they didn't come out with that initially? You know what I mean? What happened on DC side that said, you know what, what we came out was garbage, but here's
you do remember you remember how that was going, Paul? Sorry. I was going to say is you remember that.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
I mean, Batman versus Superman, it was so dark, and then there was so much criticism because Marvel was so bright and happy, and I think the people that were back in it just sort of started to freak out a little bit and go, I don't know if we like this dark. And then from what I heard, that he had suggested. Who was it that he suggested fall in love? Oh, he had suggested that Bruce Wayne fall in love with Lois Lane. And that's when everybody started to kind of freak out a little bit and go, maybe Zach's losing his mind here. Maybe we should take some of the power away from him. That's the story I had heard. Well,
I mean, that probably maybe because I've heard like so many different stories, right? But, and one of the things is, it's just from what I've seen and what people seen is, DC was trying to catch up to Marvel. Right. And they got really sloppy in doing that. They were trying to, Marvel laid it out for 10 years, right? Marvel said, we're going to start with individual movies first, right? We're going to start with the Iron Man's. They may not be the best movies, but we're starting out.
Right.
And people get the background from them, right? This is like when Paul finally saw, Captain America, the first Avenger the other day. Paul's like, Luis, I just saw this. I'm like, dude, you're 8 years late, but okay. What'd you think, And Paul's like, it was a movie that I, on my time when I grew up, I could appreciate that. I'm like, cool, right? So, then Marvel took its time. Marvel laid out a nice blueprint.
Well, plus, Marvel had it's said that the DC series is dark and the Marvel series is light and fun, but the Marvel characters has some deep darkness to them.
Oh
Their deflection is the humor. There's a lot of humor in the Marvels. Whereas with the DC characters, they're just all brooding and dark, and it makes for kind of a slow trudge through the movie,
Right.
Especially the dreaded Batman versus Superman, which I think I've tried to watch about 4 or 5 times, and I get to a point where I just go, this is possibly my least favorite superhero movie since I was 6 years old. And I'm old.
I mean, like the new movies that DC came out with, people look at me all weird, but my favorite one's the Shazam movie.
Director. That director's a YouTube guy, right? And he was making YouTube how-to videos. He wound up doing Annabelle creation, and then he worked from there to Shazam. But I love that guy, David something. I can't remember his last name. Sandberg or something. I forgot his name.
But Shazam was just like, Shazam was my favorite DC. Yeah, it's like I said, it's fun, it's humor. People have told me it feels like a Marvel movie, and I can see that, because they're just really playing on the character, playing on a 12-year-old who gets grown into an adult-sized body, right, and trying to be responsible, right? So,
listen, before we sign off for a superhero week, I wanted to ask you what's a favorite, not the favorite, but what's a favorite cosplay moment for you?
Oh gosh. So my absolute favorite okay, so so I cosplay, so I got, if you guys can see, I got Bart right here to my right. So let's start it off. Oh gosh, how can I put this? Meeting Dennis Rodman. Okay, Dennis Rodman. So the first day I ever cosplayed, we're in Rosemont, Illinois, and I tell my friends, hey, let's meet up. Took me out, getting this costume together. It was just, I was scared. I never wore like anything like this before in my life, right? It was like going out for Halloween, but when it wasn't Halloween.
It's so funny because we're wearing costumes from the age of 5 on,
Right. So we go to the steakhouse, me and my friend, and I'm looking for my buddies there. And I look where everybody's sitting down, nobody's there. I look at the bar area. Everybody's there. When you see somebody, you get like that tunnel vision, right? You start walking toward them, And I'm nervous. I don't want to be seen dressed like Barf. But then I hear in a very deep voice, Barf, Barf. I'm like, who the fuck's calling Barf? I look down, Dennis Rodman. Dennis Rodman was signing that day at Wizard World. Right? And, how do I respond to that? I respond like he was an old friend. I said, Dennis, right? And he's on the phone. He looks at me and he goes, way to go, old school, dog. Way to go, old school. How do you respond to that, And I'm like, can I have a picture? He's like, sure. So, so his arm candy, I give her the camera because this is right before smartphones. I give her my camera and she looks at me like, what am I supposed to do with this? I'm like, take the picture, right? So sit down, take the picture. Beautiful. So I'm all excited now. I got to meet Dennis Rodman, first person who took a picture with me dressed as Barf. I'm sitting at my table, and Dennis is sitting at his table with his agent, I believe, and his girlfriend, and they're just bored. And while we were chatting, BSing, going back and forth, cutting down some of the story, Dennis turns from his table. He looks at me, and he goes, why Barf? Wow, Dennis is getting philosophical with me, right? I said, well, Dennis, if you take a look at me, I said, I just really couldn't pull off Wolverine. Dennis goes, loses it. I'm like, okay, I like Dennis Rodman. I'm a Jordan fan, but Dennis is definitely a person I'd want to have a drink with and party with, right? So then I said, yeah, man. I said, yeah, Dennis, so it was either this. And at the time when Dennis would go signing his books, he'd go around sending them in a wedding dress.
Yes, right.
I don't know if you remember that. He'd do his little publicity things, sending them in a wedding dress. And then I said, so it was either this, or I pointed at him and said, or a wedding dress. And he just starts laughing even more. I'm like, okay, Dennis is freaking cool. I like Dennis, right? So afterwards, he comes by our table. He starts picking on my friends. He's like, how come you guys didn't dress up? I'm like, I told him Dennis didn't want to. I was like sending everybody down the river, right? So I asked Dennis, I said, hey, man, so do you do a lot of these signings? Or this is the first time I've ever seen him at a Comic-Con. I do. I said, so what's your favorite one? He got, never been to the one in Australia or heard of the one in Australia. And I said, so what do you like best about it, Dennis? He looks at me, looks back at the girl he was with, and he goes, the hookers. I said, get out. So honestly, I thank Dennis Rodman for breaking my bubble, for like getting this nervousness, from, so then after that, going to the con, I was calm and comfortable, and it was my first time out.
We might have to end your segment. We might have to end your segment with a Comic-Con memory every week and see what famous people you've encountered.
You did Comic-Con pretty regularly? Gosh. Wow, no kidding. That's awesome.
Yeah, I've been doing this for about 7 years now.
No kidding. You got a fan.
He also does. He and a group of friends do charity work with their costumes on too. They go visit sick kids and they raise money, and
that's awesome.
They're all really active socially too. So it's
with the cause. Yeah.
So Jesse Alcazar,
we're already past time. So
Lewis, Jesse Alcazar said,
Jesse.
So Jesse says he was WandaVision was so good today. Much love from my boy Lewis. Hashtag best bar ever. And he says, tune into the new Superman and Lois show that just premiered on DC is larger than life and Marvel is more grounded. That's his take on the differences between.
There you go.
Jesse's hardcore DC. Jesse's hardcore
all right,
DC.
Luis, we will see you next Friday, my friend.
You guys take it easy, all right?
Thank you so much for.
Bye.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, guys, take it easy. Have a nice weekend.
You too, man. Bye.
That was fun.
That was definitely fun. And look, we eventually got it to work. That's amazing, right?
Well, we had some technical difficulties, but I honestly believe because our listeners are really all friends at this point, there might be 10. Eventually, it might grow to 40, but the initial crowd, the live crowd, is generally, a handful of friends that would normally be having coffee with one or both of us somewhere in the country. And so the technical difficulties, they're pretty used to. If anybody knows me, they know that I'm a klutz and spill things. And generally, my friend Phil Gussman in North Carolina would be cooking breakfast, and I would be sitting still so as not to break anything in his kitchen.
Funny thing is now that we've got you back, all of a sudden there's a crazy delay on your feed, which kind of cracked me up. So it's okay. You're just delayed. Your voice doesn't quite match your face. That was a fun story. Allison enjoyed the story. So that was a fun story.
Well, we're about to wrap up anyway, aren't we?
Yes, we are.
We're over. We said we were going to shorten the show, and then we lengthened the show.
And we keep lengthening it.
So it was a fun one.
Yes.
We talked about a lot of things. We didn't get around to doing a song like we mentioned, but we'll probably try and do that on Mondays.
Yes.
Before we have our guest. Maybe we can make it a song associated with the guest.
Yes, that's not a bad idea.
So we hope you dug it. Please spread the word of Another Cup of Coffee. And Monday, our guest will be John Thomas Griffith.
John Thomas Griffith.
JTG.
JTG.
The Griffler. JT Mugler. He's a man of many names, but it's always the same smile. Tuning in. It's going to be fun.
It's going to be fun. I'm so excited. I'm going to play our little music to get out of here, but we'll see you guys Monday morning. Thank you again.
Well, I used to keep my money in a cookie jar. It was shaped like a cat, it was a present from my brother. I read a lot of books, but I couldn't see between the lines. I'll have another cup of coffee if you don't mind. Well, her hair is as black as an alleyway, and it used to be red, and it used to be blonde. Truth is, her hair changes color all the time. I'll have another cup of coffee if you don't mind. I'll have another cup of coffee if you don't mind. Well, I'm staring at her shoulder, but it's not what I see.